One. Hello, I'm Derek Arden and welcome to Monday Night Live. Tonight, I'm delighted to have with me Janice Litvin from Walnut Creek, California. I've no idea where Walnut Creek is, but I think it's south of San Francisco. Janice is one of the USA's leading experts on wellness, stress, and beating burnout, which I think is a bit of an issue at the moment all around the world. Janice is a former president of the North California Chapter of the National Speakers Association, a renowned speaker herself. So, Janice, tell us why perhaps burnout is a bit more of a problem these days and what you've been doing since you were last on the show.
Well, first I want to say that Tony Woodall, whose name in the box is Antone Woodall, used to live in Walnut Creek, California, which is east of San Francisco. So just to clarify for those who want to come visit Walnut Creek. Why is stress such a big problem? Because everybody is taking everything so personally, especially things going on around us. All the issues, whether it's climate change, our current president and things he's doing, things happening in other parts of the world that people are emotionally tied to, and people's emotions are just heightened right now everywhere you go.
And does social media have anything to do with that?
In a huge way, yeah. Because we're all scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, seeing all these one-sided posts.
Now, you've been doing a lot of things since we last spoke to you. Tell us, give us a snapshot about what you've been doing.
Well, in addition to my professional speaking, as you know, I speak about burnout. One thing that I discovered everywhere I went is that clients would say, we're overwhelmed, our employees are overworked, they have too much to do, and we can't find good help. And when I heard that motto, so to speak, over and over and over, I realized that I had 20 years of recruiting background that I could supplant, so to speak, to my burnout talk. So now I'm adding a talk called Recruit to Retain in the Age of AI, the Power of Human Connection, to remind people that AI is a great tool, but it doesn't replace the human emotional contact that we all need.
And you were telling me that you were talking to someone recently that went for an interview at Amazon and they didn't actually talk to anyone. All they did was talk to a bot.
Well, they eventually spoke to a human, but until that first human interview, there was no human interaction. And this is a young girl, very brilliant, who is an AI engineer, as a matter of fact, from Carnegie Mellon, one of our top universities. And every interaction was done through an automatic system. She had to take a technical assessment, fill out her background information, whatever they asked her to fill out, and even to schedule the interview. And then finally, on the day of the interview, she did have some human contact, all via Zoom, of course.
And did she get the job?
No, she didn't. And that's the other frustrating thing. She was communicated with via automatic messaging. Sorry, we didn't choose you. I mean, it was something really curt and blunt, like, sorry, you didn't get the job. And maybe a tiny bit nicer, but not very nice.
Do you think people are more stressed because they don't have so many managers to talk to because they're working from home because of the COVID issues?
Well, in America, there is a push to get people back into their offices. But yes, as much as I support the flexibility of allowing people to work from home, I feel that they should come to the office at least once a week, unless it's a gigantic commute, like over an hour each way. But yes, that can be stressful too, that not having human interaction with their team and their manager.
Over an hour is not a gigantic commute in the UK. Over 2 hours will be a gigantic commute, but certainly an hour is a piece of cake for people going into London. So, what advice do you give in your fabulous book, Banish Burnout, about what we should be doing about this? Because I mean, you can be a little bit stressed, which is good, but then we could be off the scale, all ready to have a nervous breakdown or whatever there could be.
Right, right. So I want to address a little kind of a half comment you threw in there. A little bit of stress is good. It's like before I go on stage, I have a little bit of stress. I have knots in my stomach. I get a little jittery. And I learned from Patricia Fripp, of course, and many others. I know you all know Patricia, that that energy, when channeled properly, can give you the energy you need on stage. But I'll never forget when Tony and Patricia and a number of our NSA Northern California pals were at Golden Gate Breakfast Club, and Patricia had invited me to speak on Valentine's Day of 2018. You remember that, Tony? And that was going to be my first time speaking in front of Patricia Fripp. And I was so nervous that my mouth felt like it was full of cotton balls. And I couldn't, they had served a beautiful breakfast. I barely could take one bite of eggs. I had to go out to the ante room and do some jumping and Zumba dancing to calm myself. So yes, stress can be, a little bit of stress can be good, but we also have to learn how to harness it and direct it in the right way.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, we build awareness. First of all, you're laughing because we talked about this the other day. First of all, a lot of people just are so focused on their work and they're motivated and they want to do a good job and they need to earn a living for their family and they work, 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 work. It's like a train. They just never stop. The problem is if you don't stop and pay attention to the little clues or cues, as I call them, eventually you will burn out. And I actually have a little vignette if you have time for me to tell this little story.
Go on.
I was doing a roundtable for a group of CEOs several months ago, and one of the CEOs said, after our most recent busy season, my best person, my right hand person, came to me and said, I'm shaking. I'm nervous 24/7. I'm so exhausted mentally, emotionally, physically. I'm completely burned out. I'm quitting. Today's my last day. And if I buy a farm in Montana, this was in Washington State, if I buy a farm in Montana and sit on the porch and rock in my rocker for the next year, that will make me happy. And that taught us a number of lessons. Number one, the CEO smartly said, I feel partly responsible because I wasn't checking in. This worker is such a hard worker. He's so stoic. And a lot of us were raised to be hard workers and to be stoic. And some of you, I've talked about my mother in this group before. My mother never, ever stopped going. And she used to say, you don't need to like your job. You just have to do your job. You'll like Fridays when you, back in the day when you actually went to the bank. She said, you'll like Fridays when you go to the bank. And some of us are so stoic that we don't stop and catch our breath and say, wow, that one comment by that person in that meeting was very annoying. And I still have knots in my stomach at the end of the day. It's not, and as Derek and I talked about last week in preparation, it's not a weakness to have those feelings. We're all human. We have human feelings and human reactions. And if we don't pay attention to them, then that stoicism, as I just pointed out, can be disastrous.
Now, Janice, a lot of people on this mastermind group are a bit older than the normal person working in the UK or anywhere else, but will have sons and daughters or even grandchildren who they want to give a bit of advice to. How do you spot that? Because I get the feeling that my two kids, who are very, very grown up now, are under a lot more pressure than perhaps I was. How do we help them?
I'm glad you brought that up. Some of you know I have a son whom I adore, and who works right next door to me in the room right next door, and he helps young musicians um, make a living selling their music. And
Wow.
that was an add-on to what he did before, which was teach them how to mix and master their music. And he puts more pressure on himself than I put on myself. And I feel frustrated. He just turned 32. He works extremely hard. He has a beautiful wife from Colombia, some of you know. And if there's one thing she tells him, you need to remember to take breaks, and you need to remember that we need to have time together. We need to have couple time or family time. And we all need to remember that self-care doesn't just happen. We have to focus on it. And even the younger generations are having that issue.
When you say breaks, do you mean a sort of break every half an hour, or do you mean a holiday? There's all sorts of different breaks we can do to recharge our batteries.
Yeah, every kind of break, whether it's a break 2, 3 times a day, whatever is comfortable for you. My Apple Watch tells me, I don't know how often it is, it's time for you to get up. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I do need to stand up. I do have a desk that'll rise, even if I just stand here or I go outside. The minute you get outside, dopamine is engaged because the sun, as soon as it hits your skin, the vitamin D starts getting produced. And so even if you go outside for 5 minutes, or if you take your lunch outside, or go for a 10-minute walk, any little break, not to mention bigger breaks, as you alluded to, Derek. This weekend, we went to Monterey for Thanksgiving. And so we had a 4-day break, all four of us together. And that was amazingly relaxing. We didn't bring our computers. We didn't talk about work at all. We just had that fun. And that's very rejuvenating, as I'm sure most of you know.
It's very interesting because the body tells us sometimes that we're not handling ourselves properly. Don't Now, I was in a taxi accident a month ago, but I've had a bad back from that. And Ali, my physio, who a lot of people on here know because she comes on and does some stretches with us, said, Derek, you've got to stand up every 20 minutes. And I said, 20 minutes? You're joking. I'm over the computer. She said, Derek, stand up and stretch every 20 minutes. Have you come across that before?
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because when you said that, you lifted your shoulders back, you lifted your chest. A lot of us, myself included, do sit over a laptop and we do let our shoulders go. If you're not opening up your chest, you're not getting as much oxygen into your lungs, which means you're not getting as much blood pumping into your heart. And so your body does kind of suffer. Your body suffers if you're not giving it what it needs as well.
Sure. Now you mentioned dopamine earlier. Tell us about some of these natural hormones, drugs, whatever we want to call them, that we produce. Dopamine's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, dopamine's my favorite. There are several. Some of them connect to interacting with people and building trust with people. I'm, as all of you can guess, I'm very much a people person. I feel happy when I'm around people, especially people, my friends or my family. But so when I go out in the street and I see a neighbor, I always say hi. Or even if I'm passing someone I don't know on my street, I try to remember to smile and get them to smile back, because even a little tiny thing like a smile creates a hit of dopamine. And everybody wants to be smiled at. When I'm in line at the grocery store, I look the checker in the eye. My son actually taught me this, and say, how is your day going? Because nobody ever asks them, how's your day going? How are you? Because they're the server. And so there's that server customer relationship, but they're human beings too. And then they smile and they feel good. And when they feel good, you feel good.
Well, some of us do that actually, Janice, because I've been doing that. We've probably been coached by the same person. But my friend Tim Durkin taught me to ask the question, what's the best thing that's happened to you today? And I love that one. That's
Yes,
that's
yes. Yeah, my son actually does that. Sometimes Friday nights we usually host dinner at our house, and there's a family member, I won't mention her name, who loves to complain and talk about herself. And so one day my son said to me, Mom, instead of getting sucked into her negativity, why don't you ask her the best thing that happened to her this week? And it really did change the entire communication that night.
the brilliant thing is about it. It throws people so they go silent for a minute, and then their eyes go in those NLP directions of up left and then up right, and they don't know where to go. Now, it's really dark over here at the moment. This is the darkest part of the year in the UK, in the Northern Hemisphere. Um, Cortisol. Tell me about cortisol. It's supposed to get you going, isn't it? It's supposed to be the energy, but doesn't it make you feel a bit sort of sad and depressed?
Well, if too much cortisol, which means overstimulation, and that happens when the condition I talked about earlier, which is the overwork, that's too much cortisol. And so, yes, but you do need, cortisol comes from the sun. So that's why we wake up when light comes, because the cortisol enters our body. And so we need some cortisol. Otherwise, we wouldn't wake up.
Oh. Does that count even when there's not much daylight? Is that sort of count when we get a little bit of light in the sky, which is about 7 o'clock in the morning here in the UK?
Yes, absolutely. And yes, in northern states, in super northern areas of the continent, which would be Canada, Alaska. And by the way, I was in Alaska at this time of year in 2022 for a speaking assignment. And we were so thrilled to be in Alaska. We didn't care that there were only 6 hours of sunlight a day. But yes, there is a there is a documented condition called SAD, which relates to the fact that there's not enough sun. And I remember once one of my friends that lives in Chicago said, "Oh, it's time for me to go on my antidepressants. The winter's coming." I said, "Well, you could just try to spend more time outside. You know,
Mm.
just get a bundle up with the best coat and hat and gloves you can get, and just get outside."
I mean, exercise must be good for that, isn't it? Raising your heartbeat to about 110 beats a minute is supposed to be the ultimate level, I read somewhere.
Well, actually, it depends on your age. So
Okay.
for everybody, it's different. It's if you take 220 minus your age, that's 100%. That's your max, max, max. But they recommend not to staying between 60 to 80% for high intensity aerobics. So for me personally, that's biking. Even on a gray day, I'll put on my shorter coat, my hat and gloves and everything, and I'll go for a little bike ride. Even though I love to walk, and we love to walk we have beautiful hilly area behind our house, and walking is wonderful, but I can get my heart rate up higher on my bike. So I do love to go biking.
What other chemicals are good for us? Serotonin and endorphins. I like endorphins. Talk us through some of those. I know you mentioned them in your book.
Endorphins come from we all consider endorphins the feel good exercise, which comes after the feel good hormone, which comes after exercise. And it is happily surprising that if you walk for 30 minutes or whatever, especially with another person, you do suddenly feel better. You just feel better. And what a wonderful way to take care of yourself without drugs than to get outside and walk if you're able to. I know not everybody's able to, but if you're wheelchair bound, to get ask somebody to take you out, I know that's not possible for everybody. But even for example, when my husband was in the hospital several years ago, in his hospital area, which is for those who know the Kaiser system, there was a courtyard on every floor. And so the nurses said, "We want you to get up at least once a day." So he took that to heart, and he got up every hour, whether one of us was with him or not, dragging his his wheelie with him with his drugs. And he went and sat outside in the sun. I strongly believe that that's a huge part of healing.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And what about testosterone? Is that something that some of the guys on here might have too much of sometimes?
Yeah, that's more of a male hormone. The happiness chemicals, the acronym I use is DOSE: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins.
Okay. I like that. Oxytocin. I thought oxytocin was the love one.
Love and trust and human connection. Yes.
Oh,
That's why I
trust.
said whenever I see another person, I feel happier. So my husband started picking up his guitar, which is another thing about self-care and happiness, is doing things you love, whether it's painting, dancing, going out with friends, music. Like I'm thinking about picking up a painting class next summer. My husband picked up his guitar. He actually has been taking private guitar lessons, and now he and his teacher go to these little open mic nights or whatever they're called, and they play in these funny little clubs. he comes home so happy. I go with him to support him. He travels with me everywhere on my talks. So the least I can do is go with him and take pictures and videos of him. And he feels so happy after one of those. And he's playing his guitar on and off all day, every day now.
We talked about what we can learn from the brain, didn't we, when we were talking last week? And
Yes.
the prefrontal cortex is this bit here, which is that the memory or is that the hippocampus? I can't remember. That's right at the front, isn't
That's
it?
right here. That's the intelligent. I mean, your whole brain is intelligent, but that's the rational executive functioning part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex.
And what about that part of the brain that makes me really cross somewhere in here, the amygdala hijack? I can't even say it properly, can I? It makes me so cross, but it happened to me today. I held the door open for somebody in a restaurant and they didn't even say thank you. And I was just like that. But I just held my cool. What's that all about?
The amygdala is the fight, flight, or freeze part of the brain that's our instant reaction when something happens. Now, as I said earlier, we're all humans and we all have human emotions and human reactions. The key is to build awareness, like with you holding the door and the person didn't say thank you. And my suggestion to you was she probably just got some bad news about a family member, or she's an angry person. But we can feel kindness and love for her because she needs our love, so to speak. So if we convert those feelings, it's like being cut off in the freeway and I'm like screaming alone in my car at this person that cut me off. But what if that person is rushing to the hospital with his wife who's going into labor? Of course I'm like, yeah, take the lane. I don't care. So it's all in our perspective and how we look at the world around us.
Wow, that's a brilliant reframe. I love that. Absolutely fantastic. Just a couple of things before we close. We were talking about men and women negotiating last week, and you were saying to me that women don't ask for promotion. Women are a bit softer on what they ask for, and they don't generally say no to their boss. Can you
Right.
expand on that a little for us?
Well, many cultures have these kind of built-in issues, let's call them issues, and genders. So in my family, we were never taught to say no to our parents. We were never allowed to say no or push back, unless it was an extreme situation. And in many cultures, they're taught not to resist authority. But at some point, you need to set your healthy boundaries. And so it's important to learn how to say no without saying no. I'll give you a quick example. If a boss comes to you and says, "Oh, Janice, I have this exciting new project I want you to work on, and you're going to start Monday, and here's your list of people that are going to work with you, and here's your resources." But Janice is already overloaded with 10 projects and is already feeling overwhelmed. What does Janice do? A younger employee might get angry, not express it to the boss, might go home and complain for a week and say, "You won't believe what's happening now." Or Janice might learn how to reframe the situation and say, "Thank you, boss Joe. I'd love to work on this new project. And before we get started on Monday, we need to sit down and go over my long list of projects that I'm already working on and rework the deadlines because I already work 8 to 10 hours a day. I do have children at home I need to see, and we need to reframe my schedule so that I can join you on the new project."
That is a great reframe. That really is, and I think we need to cut that out and put that on on my TikTok channel. Janice, how do people get hold of your book? Is it on
There are
Amazon?
many. Okay, well, I have a surprise for you, and I don't have the link handy, but my book is 99 cents from today until December 4th. I'm involved with this large Kindle cross promotion sale. I'm going to be posting about it tomorrow on my LinkedIn. So if you join me on LinkedIn, and I'll put my LinkedIn in the chat, well, I won't say it. I'll just put it in the chat. Anyway, so my book is 99 cents on Amazon for 4 days. Other than that, you can email me, or it's also on my website, janicelitvin.com/books, where I have 2 books now, happily. And And oh, I'm also giving you guys a free gift. I forgot, but tell your friends about the 99 cents. But I have a free gift, and I'll put that link in the chat as well.
Fantastic. Janice, we're nearly out of time. Just one last tip or technique for 2026. We're nearly there, that you'd like to share with people.
Well, thank you so much for that question. A client asked me during a preparation call for one of my presentations, how can we tell exactly how burned out we are? And I thought no one had ever asked me that question. I thought that was such a smart question. And I realized that there are little clues that we're getting stressed. What she really meant to say is, how can we tell how stressed we are? Because the legal definition of burnout is you're completely mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted, and you need to go sit on a farm in Montana, like I talked about earlier. However, the little clues are there if you pay attention. And I have a handout, which I'm also going to put in the chat, that breaks down 3 categories of levels of stress or burnout. Like, for example, if you begin to feel like you're avoiding, like you wake up one day at work and go, oh, I can't look at those emails today. They just drive me crazy. Little avoidances, little starting to call in sick more, starting to have trouble thinking as clearly as you usually do, having trouble with sleep. Those are all little clues, and there are progressively more intense feelings as we go on. And again, I'll put that link in the chat.
Yes, and for anyone that's watching this on YouTube or can't access the chat or listening to this on the Negotiators podcast, just email me and I'll share that with you. But I'll put it in my briefing next week. Janice, thanks so much for
Thank you.
joining us yet again, and I hope you'll come back and share some more wisdom with us at some stage next year. Janice Litvin, you're a legend.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. And can I ask members of Monday Night Live to give Janice the vote of thanks in the normal Monday Night Live
Thank
way?
you all so much. I appreciate it very much.